Streets cleared for the motorcades for miles around the conference venue today. Heads of state in town en masse pledged to transition away from fossil fuel. But the hosts, Azerbaijan, a petro-state, telling the world its oil and gas is, quote, a gift from God.
The country's natural resources, which are the gift of the God.
The Secretary-General of the UN looked on unimpressed. But this was the UK's big day. The Prime Minister here with a new British carbon-cutting plan designed to set the bar high and encourage others to follow.
It's not about telling people how to live their lives. I'm not interested in that. I am interested in making sure that their energy bills are stable, that we've got energy independence, and that we also, along the way, pick up the next generation of jobs.
The heart of it, radical emissions cuts and a timetable for the UK's NDC, UN jargon for a climate strategy.
So at this COP, I was pleased to announce that we're building on our reputation as a climate leader, with the UK's 2035 NDC target to reduce all greenhouse gas emissions by at least 81% on 1990 levels.
How to do it? Action? Delivery? Details are to be set out in due course, we are told. Campaigners broadly welcomed it here today, but criticised key elements like spending £22 billion on largely unproven carbon capture technology.
This commitment is being undermined by the UK's continued funneling of over £5 billion a year in public subsidies to the fossil fuel industry. So that really does undermine this commitment. And in addition, the UK continues to have a fixation on carbon capture and storage, which is a false climate solution.
Setting targets is one thing, but delivery is everything. Which brings us to the wider question here, a global climate deal where polluting countries pay for the mess they've made. Is it possible? Here's the EU's lead negotiator.
Excuse me, sir, you confident there'll be a finance deal this COP of all COPs?
We'll see. We'll see. The jury is out.
Optimistic? Hope?
It's going to be a steep climb, but we'll see.
Thank you.
We then ran into one of the most influential people of all in current climate politics.
Prime Minister, can I just ask you, they're talking about $2.4 trillion for a global finance deal. The West is saying it can't afford it. What's your message?
That's why we've been talking about having a different approach to how we protect the global public commons.
You suffered in the Caribbean from hurricanes. When you saw Valencia and those pictures in Spain, what should we in Europe learn from that?
That we're all in this together and that there's no division between people and planet, and there's no division on planet between those who will suffer.
Landing that deal, now the core business here for the next 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Well, earlier Alex spoke to the Energy Secretary, Ed Miliband, and began by asking him what he thought about Donald Trump saying that climate change is a hoax.
Well, I don't believe it is a hoax.
But what do you say to...
Well, it's real. Just look at events in Spain. Look at the fact that we had 40-degree day in Britain 2 years ago. It's definitely, look at what's happening in the US. It's definitely happening. But you know, the interesting thing, Alex, is it's definitely happening, and this transition is happening. And it's unstoppable. Look around this.
Well, we know about the transition, but is that the message you will, as a government, have to say to the incoming president?
No, the message for us is we're going to do what's in our national self-interest.
Give us a sense of how people's lives are going to change, because that means real change that we're going to see.
Sunny uplands, I would say.
Well, let's a solar reference.
Let me paint a picture for you. I think it's a really good challenge. So a power sector driven basically 100% by renewables, nuclear, clean power. In terms of buildings, warmer homes, insulated homes, cutting emissions, and also a big transition to heat pumps, because that's really important. Potentially batteries in homes as well. A transport sector where big take-up of EVs, electric vehicles.
Okay, that's your vision of sunny uplands, but there are dark chasms. The poor British taxpayer...
I thought you'd try and find the dark chasm.
Well, there's a big one, and it's subsidies. The poor British taxpayer currently paying $5 billion a year to oil and gas companies making huge profits anyway. How are you going to stop that?
Well, look, what we've done in relation to the oil and gas sector is we've raised the windfall tax, We've got a windfall tax on until 2030.
No, but how are you going to stop the subsidies? How are you going to do it going forward?
78%. Let me be absolutely frank with you. In terms of the North Sea, I think it's really important there is a just transition. Those can't just be words, they've got to be a reality.
And that balances out?
It's true that there are capital allowances for investment, much bigger capital allowances for investing in decarbonisation, thanks to what Rachel Reeves did in the budget. I suppose what I'm saying to you is, I think nobody could accuse us of not being forward when it comes to oil and gas. We're taking this leading position of any G7 country, any country around the world actually, on new licenses, because it's in line with the science. But we're also about ensuring that there is a just transition for those workers. And that's why building up the future, carbon capture and storage, the hydrogen economy, jobs in offshore wind, big announcement made by Scottish Power of investment in jobs in Siemens in Hull today. Really, that's the future.
Right.
That's the future, but it's got to be a just transition.
Okay, you mentioned carbon capture. Give me an example where, right now on planet Earth, that is working at power station, big scale.
Well, in terms of carbon capture, the technology, it's been used in Norway for decades.
No, but can you give me an example right now?
Well, look,
can you give me an example where at scale?
Well, we're doing it at a bigger scale than it's been done elsewhere.
Not at power station scale, we're not.
We are doing it at bigger scale. Well, at Net Zero Teesside, which is our plan for gas with carbon capture and storage, it's definitely a world-leading project. Just to be clear about this, this is the kind of anti-Michael Gove position. We're led by the experts on this.